Um, this very specific, almost universal experience I think a lot of us have had.
Hmm.
You decide, okay, today's the day. You get your coffee, you sit down, you open up the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, and you're expecting, I don't know, wisdom, comfort.
You're looking for that gentle, poetic
Yeah.
affirmation of life.
Exactly. But instead, what you get, it feels like you just walked into a performance review that you're absolutely going to fail.
Right. It feels crushing.
It's crushing. It's not comforting. It reads like this impossible checklist. Be perfect. Don't worry. Don't even be angry. By the end, you don't feel blessed. You feel, well, completely burdened.
And that's the common reaction. We read it as this ultimate moral ladder that we're supposed to climb rung by rung through just sheer effort. And of course, we slip.
And then we feel disqualified. But that is exactly why we are digging into this source today. We're looking at a work by Charles Clark called Recovering the Original Governmental Message of the King and His Kingdom.
And his premise really turns the whole thing on its head.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Clark basically argues that for centuries, we've been reading a legal constitution as if it were a devotional poem.
And that distinction, a constitution versus a poem, that's the hinge for this whole deep dive. Clark calls his work a jurisdictional restoration.
Okay, what does that mean, jurisdictional?
Well, he argues that the text got spiritualized and moralized over time. We turned it into advice on how to be a nicer person or how to generate, religious feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But Clark says if you read it in its original context, it's not about religion. It's about government. It's not about how to be good. It's about how to function under a king.
And that's our mission today. We're going to unpack three huge redefinitions from Clark: kingdom, blessed, and repentance. And we'll see if reading Matthew 5 and 6 this way changes it from that burden of performance into a manual on alignment.
Exactly. Because if it's a manual, then maybe my inability to be perfect isn't a moral failure.
It's just a misunderstanding of the mechanics.
Precisely. It shifts the focus from your effort to your position. And we have to start with the biggest word of all, kingdom.
Right. So let's unpack that. When most people, at least in the West, hear kingdom of heaven, the brain immediately goes to afterlife.
Clouds, harps, the whole thing.
Or if not that, it's a vague internal feeling. The kingdom is in my heart, which just means I feel peaceful right now.
That's the drift, yeah. We see it as a destination or a sentiment, but Clark points out that the Greek word basileia, it doesn't primarily mean a territory or a place.
So what does it mean?
It means active rule or reign. It's a jurisdiction.
So it's not a noun of place, it's a noun of...
Action. A noun of action. Think of it less like a country on a map and more like an authority in operation.
Okay, so if a king is on the throne issuing decrees, the kingdom is happening right there in the room.
That's it. It's the active exercise of authority. So when the text says the kingdom is at hand, it doesn't mean a vacation spot is opening up. It means a new government is in session right now.
That changes the stakes immediately. It's not about waiting for heaven. It's about operating under a new administration today.
And once you get that, we're talking about an active government, the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, they start to make sense in a totally new way.
Yeah, this is where the poetry reading usually kicks in. We hear blessed and we think happy.
Or divinely encouraged.
Right. If you're feeling sad, don't worry, God likes you. It's like a consolation prize for having a bad day.
It does feel that way, but that reading just collapses. Clark digs into the Greek word makarios. And in the first century, this was not an emotional description. It was a status declaration.
Status declaration. So, like a title or legal standing.
A much better translation, according to the source, would be authorized or rightly positioned. It's a royal pronouncement.
That sounds so much more official, legal. So let's try it. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Yeah. If I read that emotionally, I have to have low self-esteem. I have to feel worthless so God can bless me.
Which sounds unhealthy and incorrect. Clark argues poor in spirit is a jurisdictional status. It describes the person who has realized they're bankrupt of their own authority.
They've relinquished self-rule.
That's the phrase. It's not, I feel bad about myself. It is, I officially resign from the job of being my own king.
Okay, so to be poor, in that sense, is to admit you don't have the resources to run your own life.
And the moment you admit that, the moment you step down from your own little throne, you are instantly authorized or blessed in the real kingdom. Why?
Because the kingdom belongs to people who actually let the king rule.
Exactly.
Wow. That is a huge shift. So the Beatitudes aren't these impossible emotional goals I have to work up. They're not, I need to feel more meek today.
No.
They're just declarations of fact. You are authorized because you are aligned. It's like a passport stamp. You get it because you're a citizen standing in the right line.
That's a great analogy. They aren't things to strive for. They declare what's true the moment you align with the government.
Okay, but if being blessed is about alignment, then we have to talk about how we get aligned. And that brings us to maybe the most misunderstood concept of all, repentance. I mean, I grew up thinking repentance was about feeling really, really bad, crying at an altar, promising to do better, moral repair.
That's the traditional view, for sure. Emotional remorse plus behavioral correction. But Clark points us to the Hebrew word shuv, which just means return, and the Greek metanoia,
Which is
a change of governing mind. Clark calls it the return protocol.
the return protocol. Sounds very technical.
It's meant to be. He's saying repentance isn't about feelings, it's about positional relocation. It is simply moving back to the place of safety under authority.
The source uses an analogy, right? The lost child.
Yes. A toddler gets separated from their parent. They don't need to fix the map or write an essay explaining why they wandered off. They just need to stop running away and return to the parent.
That takes so much pressure off because the usual feeling is, I have to fix myself before I can come back.
Right. I need to clean up my act first.
But Clark is saying the return is the fix.
It is the only fix. We see it in the prodigal son story. When the son returns, what does the father do? Does he put him on probation?
No, the source points this out. The robe, the ring, the authority, it's all restored immediately.
Immediately, because authority flows from position, not from performance. The second he was back in the position of son, he had the authority of a son.
So sin is just being out of position, and repentance is just getting back in position.
You got it. It's a jurisdictional fix, not a moral obstacle course.
Okay, so kingdom is active rule.
Yeah.
Blessed is authorized status. Repentance is returning to position. Now let's apply this to the Constitution itself, Matthew 5. This is where Jesus says things like, you have heard it said, do not murder. But I say, don't even be angry.
Which, if you're reading it as a rule book, sounds impossibly harder.
Right, I'm already panicked.
But Clark reframes this. He says Jesus isn't making the rules stricter. He's making the governance earlier.
Earlier governance, so he's moving the intervention point.
Way earlier. Human law governs the explosion. It waits for the murder, then it acts. The kingdom governs the source. It governs the internal alignment. If you deal with the anger, the murder never even becomes an option.
It's preventive maintenance instead of damage control.
That's a great way to put it. And this brings us to maybe the most famous part, turn the other cheek.
Oh, yeah, the be a doormat verse. Let people walk all over you. Be passive.
And Clark just completely rejects that. He says this is about refusing rival authority.
Rival authority. How does that work?
Think jurisdictionally. If someone slaps you and your immediate response is to slap them back, who is governing your behavior in that moment?
The person who slapped me. They acted, I reacted. They pushed a button.
You've entered a rivalry. You've allowed their hostility to dictate your actions. To turn the other cheek is not weakness. It is a profound refusal to let the attacker possess your authority.
It's saying you don't get to decide what I do. I remain positioned under my king, not under your provocation.
It's an incredible act of strength. And it's the same logic for love your enemies. We think agape love is about generating warm, fuzzy feelings for people who hate us.
Which is impossible. You can't force that emotion.
You can't, because agape isn't an emotion. Clark defines it as allegiance expressed through ordered action.
Okay, break that down.
It means you act toward your enemy according to kingdom rules, not according to their hostility. You refuse to let their bad behavior pull you out of your aligned behavior.
So I don't have to like them. I just have to refuse to let their hatred change how I act.
Exactly. You maintain your alignment. That is how you love them, by demonstrating a governed life instead of mirroring their chaos.
That makes Matthew 5 feel so much more possible. It's about maintaining a stance, not generating an emotion. Okay, let's move into Matthew 6. The source calls this the administration of the secret place.
Yes, we shift from the Constitution to administration, from what's right to how authority is carried. And the big danger here, Clark says, isn't sin, it's authority transfer.
Authority transfer. And this is where he talks about doing things to be seen.
Right. Jesus warns about performing your righteousness for an audience. And the mechanism is simple. Whoever sees the act is the one who rewards it.
So it's a closed-loop transaction.
A completely closed loop. If you give money, so the crowd applauds, their applause is your reward. Transaction complete. You've been paid in full.
And the problem is the crowd's currency popularity isn't the same as the king's.
Not at all. You submitted your work to the wrong department, so to speak. If the crowd rewards you, the father doesn't. Not out of anger, but because the jurisdiction has already been settled.
So when Jesus calls them hypocrites, Clark says he doesn't just mean fakes.
He means actors. They are performing for the wrong audience. The secret place, praying in your closet, isn't just about hiding. It's about jurisdictional exclusivity.
That's a strong phrase.
It is. It means you are intentionally keeping your allegiance focused solely on the king. If only the father sees it, then only the father can reward it. You're protecting the feedback loop.
Protecting your authority from being diluted by public opinion. That has to connect to the end of chapter 6, which is all about anxiety. Do not worry.
Yes, another command that, on its own, is basically useless. Telling an anxious person to just relax never works.
So what's Clark's take?
He reframes anxiety as a jurisdictional error.
A jurisdictional error. I love that. It's like you're trying to operate machinery you aren't licensed for.
That's exactly it. The text says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Clark argues your heart is a follower. It follows security. So if you anchor your security in something unstable, like money, your heart follows it there and becomes anxious.
So anxiety is what happens when we try to govern something outside of our jurisdiction.
Yes, it is the symptom of self-governance. You
Right.
don't have authority over tomorrow, so when you try to rule it, you feel the strain. That strain is anxiety.
And the birds and the lilies, they don't worry. I always thought, well, good for them, they're birds.
But Clark's point is, they aren't lazy, they work. But they are governed. They operate within the system. They don't try to be the source of their own provision for a future they can't control.
So seek first the kingdom isn't try harder to be holy and you'll get what you want.
No, it's stay in your assigned jurisdiction. Your job is today. The king's job is provision and tomorrow. When you stop trying to be king, the burden of provision shifts back to the father and the anxiety dissolves.
It's about resigning from the job of worrying about tomorrow. I think I need to write a resignation letter for general manager of the universe.
It's simply returning to your post. A soldier focuses on today's mission. They don't worry about the supply lines. That's the quartermaster's job. If you try to do both, you'll be a wreck.
This whole perspective,
Yeah.
it just completely changes the feeling of the Sermon on the Mount. We started out saying it felt like an impossible burden, but through this governmental lens, it's actually a relief.
It is the ultimate relief. You go from trying to earn status to simply accepting an authorized blessed status, from trying to fix yourself to just returning to your position.
From performing for crowds to living for an audience of one.
And from that crushing anxiety about the future to the simple, profound task of staying in today. This deep dive into Clark's work shows that the sermon isn't a ladder to climb.
It's a constitution to live under. It's not about striving. It's about remaining.
Remaining in position, under authority.
And that sounds so much more sustainable.
Because the authority flows from the position, not from your effort. The moment you're in position, the king's government is backing you up.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with based on all this. If authority really does flow from position and not from how hard you try, where are you currently striving in your life? Where are you striving when you should actually just be returning?
That is the question. Where are you trying to force an outcome instead of aligning with the king?
Something to think about. We'd encourage you to open up Matthew 5 and 6 again. But read it this time, not as a poem, not as a checklist, but as a constitution. And see if it doesn't change everything. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
See you next time.